In the 8 and 16-bit era, platformers were probably the most popular game genre around, but when 3D games became more prominent, platformers almost completely went away, especially two-player ones.
Today we're covering co-op platformers on Sega Genesis. Berenstain Bears, Camping Adventure. Or is it Berenstain? Or is it who gives a shit, the Mandela effect isn't real? Comment below with your answer. So this is a game obviously intended for a younger audience. It's pretty simple. You go through the levels and collect various items. You can throw rocks, use a net, and or your butt to defend yourself. There are 5 levels in total to complete. You can beat the game in under an hour without too much trouble.
I found most of the game to be pretty easy. Some of the platforming parts can get frustrating, but maybe that's just us. There are a couple parts that actually involve co-op gameplay. At times, you'll need to give your partner a boost to a higher ledge, and others involve you jumping on a catapult to fling the other player up. I did enjoy those parts. Overall, it's worth trying once, but there isn't enough compelling gameplay to make anyone want to go back to it.
I never played this one when I was growing up. I tried it for the first time about 5 years ago after finding it complete in box at a thrift store for, I think, like $10. If a game is co-op, I will probably buy it, despite my better judgment. It's kind of a character flaw for me. Is this the best platformer on Sega Genesis? Absolutely not.
Joe and Mac. The Sega Genesis version of Joe and Mac for the time was considered the most arcade accurate. It looks great, it sounds great, it plays mostly decent. It can be a lot of fun with the second player. You can jump on each other's heads to hit higher opponents, but if you're not working together, you can also get in each other's way.
My only experience with Joe and Mac was playing the arcade game at my local dollar movie theater. I was immediately drawn to the big colorful sprites, and of course the 2-player action. I later tried out various home ports, but always preferred the arcade version. I was a Sega kid growing up, so being able to have the same arcade experience in my home would have blown my dumb kid mind. Unfortunately, I just never saw the game at rental stores or anything. My old jaded gamer self is not nearly as excited about Joe and Mac as I was in that movie theater.
But it's a game that still has plenty to offer. The levels are short and fast-paced, making you feel like you're accomplishing something in little time. The boss fights are all creative with some interesting designs. There's even some branching paths that will provide some replayability. I just feel like the aiming and platforming are a bit unrefined. Overall, Joe and Mac is a good game, but maybe not a great game.
Ren and Stimpy, Stimpy's Invention. Allow me to start by saying John K. is a true piece of Now that I have that out of the way, let's talk about Stimpy's Invention. I always loved Ren and Stimpy, but due to the crude nature of the show, my mom didn't want me watching it, so I had no choice but to watch in secrecy. I remember seeing Stimpy's Invention on the shelves of my local video rental store, Hastings. Like always, the first thing I did when considering a Genesis rental was look at the back of the box to see if it was 2 players. It was, and based on the screenshots, I felt that it was safe to assume that it would also be co-op. This looked like the perfect candidate for a weekend rental for my sister and I to play. Unfortunately, my mom didn't allow it. So for years, I just had the memory of that box on the shelf, wondering what I was missing out on. Fast forward 20-some years, I finally got a loose cartridge of Stimpy's Invention at a local game store. Did it live up to what I created in my mind? Well, let's talk about it.
This game does a great job of interpreting the source material. Everything looks like an episode of Ren and Stimpy, at least as close as a Sega Genesis can get. The signature humor of the series shows up throughout the game. There's a level where you blow up like a balloon and use farts to maneuver throughout the stage. One level has you climbing nose hairs, and in another, you'll be jumping around on teeth with little strands of nerves wiggling around between. There's some really creative gameplay here with a lot of variety. You can do some team moves together, like a long jump, throw Stimpy's nose, or use Ren as a shovel. Despite all of the character and creativity, Stimpy's Invention can be quite annoying to play. The level design is poor, requiring you to memorize enemy placement and obstacles rather than allowing the player to react. This leads to many unfair deaths. Luckily, there are unlimited continues and the game isn't very long. It's a shame, with all the potential, every level still ends up feeling frustrating and unsatisfying.
So to answer the question, did this game hold up to what I created in my child brain? Not at all. I found it to be quite disappointing. Unless you're a die-hard Ren and Stimpy fan, you should probably just skip this one.
Todd's Adventure in Slime World. So this game originally came out on the Atari Lynx in 1990 and was later ported to Genesis and PC Engine CD in '92. The home console versions are pretty faithful to the original Lynx game, with the exception of the 8-player co-op mode, for obvious reasons.
Someday, I will round up 8 Atari Lynx consoles, 8 copies of Todd's Adventure in Slime World, and 7 of my gaming buddies to experience this game the way it was intended, with 7 friends that are mildly amused for a minute, then bored for the rest of the time. I can't imagine more than 10 people in history have ever acquired the equipment to attempt this. Anyway, the Genesis port is done well.
The music is terrible. The sound effects will make your ears bleed and the gameplay is really slow. But for some reason, I just really enjoy this game. Co-op and split screen is always a great feature. You're able to work together or split up to divide and conquer without having to worry about the other player. I wish more modern games would bring back split screen. It works really well for a game all about exploration. Another detail of the game that I appreciated was that in place of a health bar, you gauge your status by the amount of slime on your body. The more green you get, the closer to death you become. In order to remove the slime, you must find a pool of water and jump into it. You'll then see Todd use his hands to wash off the slime.
Any game that involves climbing on walls gets some points for me as well. That being said, your weapon kind of sucks, and a lot of the enemies can take a while to kill. This really interrupts the best part of the game, which is the exploration. But luckily, you get unlimited lives, and whenever you die, you just go back to the most recent checkpoint. So as long as you're patient, you should be able to make it through the stage. I can recognize that Todd's Adventure in Slime World isn't for everyone, but we had some fun with it. World of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. This is the game I have the most history with. It's one of my early game rental memories. My sister and I talked about it so much that my mom eventually bought it for us on Christmas. This is one of the games that really got me obsessed with co-op gaming. I loved that both players were equal and had to work together to get through the levels. Between catapults, dropping a rope for your partner to climb, and sometimes Mickey having to pull Donald through a passage because his ass gets stuck, it really felt like a game that was designed specifically to be played with a partner. This is also one of the first games I was ever able to beat as a child. It took me months to finish World of Illusion with my sister. We tried it so many times and would just kind of get stuck at a part or just give up. I remember throwing in the towel every time we got a game over, despite the unlimited continues. I just didn't have the motivation to continue playing after having to start the level over. But when I finally beat Pete at the end, I felt so accomplished. I never really tried playing through the game again until making this video. So for over 25 years, because of the struggle I had with this game as a kid, I had it worked up in my mind as a highly difficult experience.
We really didn't have a problem getting to the end, and were able to beat it in under an hour. Minus a couple really annoying parts, World of Illusion holds up great. The platforming is tight and makes you always feel in control. The level design is solid. Unlike Ren and Stimpy, if you screw up, it's your own fault, not due to the bad game design. Everything is fair and balanced. The environments are very creative and often change up the gameplay. You're always seeing something new, so your attention is easily kept between the levels. And of course, the co-op gameplay I mentioned before. The only part of the game that lost points with me is on the final level. First, there are these oversized dice that you need to jump on to open the gate. If you choose the wrong one, they'll send you back to an earlier part of the level. This is just annoying, but can be easily skipped if you know the right dice to choose. It's the part after this that really turned me off. There are a bunch of doors, each one makes you replay a past level, and unlike the dice, you can't just skip this part by choosing the correct door. You have to go through all of them. It just felt like lazy game design to artificially add more time to the game without actually creating anything new. At least you don't have to play through the whole levels, just small segments, but still, it's annoying to have to redo those parts.
But other than that, World of Illusion is a great experience that all fans of platformers should try at least once. So there's 5 co-op platformers on Sega Genesis. What are some of your favorites?
Let us know in the comments below. Maybe we'll include them in part 2. Thanks for watching.
Smash that motherfucking like button, you little chode. Bebop, stop, pop, sweat, shotgun, drop, bar, up, flop, chop, slop. Co-op.